This is HOA boardroom battles. She said encroachment and smiled. I am a data analyst, which means I track patterns and timelines, and right now the pattern is that Evelyn Robinson is pointing at a post hole in my yard and yelling that open holes are a hazard and she could shut me down. I am here to stop people like you, she shouts, and I can feel my hands shaking because my fence contractor is scheduled for a tight morning window, and if Karen stops the work, we pay a cancellation fee. The hole is 8 inches deep, barely started, and she is acting like I dug a mine shaft. I take a breath and remind myself that I am rebuilding my finances after a bad year, and I cannot absorb bogus fees, so I need to stay calm and document everything. Evelyn is the Safety Committee Chair for the Woodland Crossing Fence Compliance Association, which sounds official until you realize Safety Committee is code for harassing contractors like criminals. She showed up 10 minutes after my crew started marking the line, clipboard in hand, badge reel clipped to her cardigan like she works for the county. The badge card is blank, no text, but she wears it like a weapon. Behind her, I can see a couple on a porch 2 houses down, coffee mugs in hand, watching like this is a show. I stand up and wipe my hands on my jeans, trying to look calm. Your setback is wrong, Evelyn says, and I decide what counts as compliant, not you. She flips through her clipboard and jabs a finger at a page I cannot read from this angle. I have the survey right here, I say, pulling the printed survey map packet from my backpack. The packet is thick, stapled, no readable text on the cover, just diagrams and property lines. She does not even look at it. She shakes her head and says the HOA requires independent verification, and until she approves the survey, I cannot proceed. I ask her what independent verification means, and she ignores me, turning to my contractor. He is a big guy, early 50s, wearing a tool belt and muddy boots, and he gives me a look that says he has seen this before. She tells him if he returns tomorrow without her written approval, she will have his vehicles cited or towed. That is escalation step 1, and I feel my chest tighten, because the contractor has a narrow schedule, and if he loses a day, he moves on to the next job. I pull out my phone and start recording. Evelyn notices immediately and steps closer, her voice rising. You do not have permission to record me, she says, and I reply that we are on my property and Colorado is a one-party consent state. She does not like that. She tells me I will bury you in notices until you run out of printer ink, and I feel a surge of anger, but I keep my face neutral. That line is going to come back to haunt her, I think, and I make a mental note to timestamp this video. The contractor tells Evelyn he is not leaving his equipment overnight if she is threatening towing, and she smiles like she just won something. She walks back to her car, a silver sedan parked at the curb, and pulls out a portable speaker. I have seen this speaker before. She uses it at the mailbox cluster to play recorded announcements about violations, her voice looping over and over, and the whole neighborhood has complained, but no one does anything. She sets it on the curb and presses play. The announcement says all contractors working in Woodland Crossing must register with the HOA office and display a permit decal, and failure to comply will result in towing and fines. My contractor shakes his head and starts loading his tools back into the truck. I ask him to wait, and he says he cannot risk a tow. His insurance does not cover HOA harassment. I watch him drive away, and I feel the cancellation fee looming. Evelyn stands there with her arms crossed, looking satisfied, and I realize this is not about the fence. This is about control. I live in Colorado Springs, Colorado, in a community where the HOA treats contractors like criminals and homeowners like suspects. I moved here 8 months ago because the rent was lower, and I needed to save money after a rough financial year. I did not know the HOA was this aggressive until I got my first notice 3 weeks after moving in, a complaint about my car being parked facing the wrong direction. I ignored it because it felt absurd, and 2 days later I got a follow-up notice with a $25 fine. I paid it to avoid escalation, and that was my mistake. Evelyn learned I would fold. Now she is standing in my yard, rain dripping off her visor, telling me I need to submit a fence application with architectural review, and that could take 6 to 8 weeks. I already submitted the application, I say, and I pull up the email confirmation on my phone. She glances at it and says the application was incomplete because I did not include a materials list with manufacturer specs. That was not on the checklist, I say, and she replies that the checklist is guidance, not requirements. I feel my jaw clench. I ask her to show me the actual rule and she flips through her clipboard again, reading out loud from a section about shed construction. I realize she is reading the wrong rules section out loud and I almost laugh. That is sheds, I say, not fences. She does not miss a beat. She says the principle applies and walks back to her car. I stand there in the drizzle, staring at the stake and string outline that proves my setback is correct, and I think about my options. I could call the management company, but they always side with the board. I could hire a lawyer, but that costs money I do not have. Or I could play the long game. I work in data analysis, which means I know how to track patterns, and Evelyn has a pattern. She escalates fast, she documents everything in writing, and she makes mistakes when she is confident. I decide to let her think she is winning while I build a case. I take photos of the string line, the survey packet, the post hole, and Evelyn's car with the portable speaker still on the curb. I make sure the timestamps are visible in the metadata. That night I go through the HOA group chat on my phone. I am part of the neighborhood app, and the board uses it to coordinate enforcement. I scroll back 3 months, and I find a thread where Evelyn is telling another board member to target fence projects because they generate the most fee revenue. She actually types that, fee revenue, like the HOA is a business. I screenshot the entire thread and save it in a folder labeled evidence. My friend works in IT and he is good at verifying metadata and timestamps, so I send him the screenshots and ask him to confirm they are authentic. He replies within an hour saying they are clean, and if I need an affidavit, he can provide one. I thank him and feel a little less alone. The next morning, I get an email from the HOA management company. The subject line says violation notice fence project and my stomach drops. I open it and see a claim that I damaged common property during excavation, and I must pay $500 immediately or be charged $50 per day. I read it twice trying to figure out what common property they mean. My yard backs up to a drainage easement, but I did not touch it. I did not even dig near it. I reply to the email asking for photos or specifics, and I get an auto response saying the office is closed for the holiday weekend. It is Thursday. I realize they sent this on purpose, timing it so I cannot respond until Monday. And by then, I will owe 3 days of fees. That is escalation step 2. I call my contractor and explain the situation. He says he has dealt with Woodland Crossing before, and they pulled the same stunt on another client. He tells me to take photos of the entire yard with timestamps and make sure nothing is disturbed. I spend an hour walking the property line, photographing every inch, making sure the drainage easement is visible and untouched. I email the photos to the management company with a read receipt request. Then I go to the hardware store to buy materials for the fence, because I am not waiting for permission anymore. At the hardware store parking lot, Evelyn is waiting. I do not know how she knew I would be there, but she is standing near the entrance with her phone out, filming me as I load fence rails into my car. A 2x4 fence rail with a splintered edge sticks out of the trunk and she zooms in on it like it is evidence of a crime. Strangers stop and stare, and I feel humiliated. I walk over and ask her what she is doing. She says she is documenting unauthorized material transport, and if I install anything without approval, she will fine me for each board. I decide what counts as compliant, not you, she repeats, and I hear that phrase again like a mantra. I tell her she is harassing me, and she laughs. She says harassment is a legal term and I should be careful throwing it around. I drive home and unload the materials in my garage. I do not touch the fence line. I do not dig. I just stack the rails and posts and wait. On Monday, I get a response from the management company. They send me a photo of the drainage easement with a small dirt clod near the edge. The photo is grainy and the timestamp is off by 2 hours, which makes no sense unless someone took it with a camera that had the wrong time set. I send my timestamp photos showing the easement was clean when I left on Thursday. The management company replies saying my photos are old because the dirt marks or grass look different day to day. That is the side complication Evelyn is using, claiming photos are invalid based on tiny differences. I call my friend and ask him to verify the metadata on both sets of photos. He confirms mine are accurate and the HOA photo has been edited. The XIF data shows the timestamp was manually changed. I ask him to write that up in a report, and he agrees. I feel a spark of hope. Evelyn is getting sloppy. She is so confident she is not even covering her tracks well. I keep my plan quiet, because the HOA depends on controlling the narrative, and if Evelyn thinks I am just another homeowner who will fold, she will keep escalating until she makes a fatal mistake. On Tuesday, my contractor calls and says he can come back Thursday if I can guarantee Evelyn will not tow his truck. I tell him I cannot guarantee anything, but I will handle it. I email the management company and copy the board, attaching my friend's metadata report and asking for an immediate retraction of the common property damage claim. I do not get a response. Wednesday night, I get another email. This one says the HOA attorney has reviewed my case and determined I am in violation of multiple covenants, including setback, materials, and unauthorized excavation. The email includes a notice of lien and says if I do not pay $1,200 by Friday, the lien will be filed with the county and additional legal fees will be added daily. I read the email 3 times and I feel my hands shaking. $1,200. I do not have that. I barely have rent. This is exactly what they want. They want me to panic and pay, or they want me to ignore it so they can add more fees and eventually foreclose. I sit at my kitchen table and I think about the screenshots, the metadata report, the video of Evelyn reading the wrong rules section. I think about the boomerang line, I will bury you in notices until you run out of printer ink. She said that on camera. I think about the trump card I have been holding, the one thing I have not shared yet, and I decide it is time. The trump card is a screenshot of Evelyn instructing a vendor to falsify a photo timestamp. I found it in the HOA group chat 2 weeks ago, buried in a thread about landscaping enforcement. Evelyn was coordinating with a lawn care company to photograph a neighbor's overgrown yard, but the company took the photo a week late. Evelyn told them to change the EXIF data to match the original violation date so the neighbor could not contest it. She actually typed it out, changed the date so it matches the notice. I took a screenshot immediately and verified it with my friend. The vendor never changed the photo, they just dropped the contract, but Evelyn's instruction is still there in writing. That is proof of intent to falsify evidence, and it connects directly to the drainage easement photo with the wrong timestamp. I file a formal records complaint with the HOA management company and attach the proof so the board cannot hide it. I include the screenshot, the metadata report, my timestamp photos, and the video of Evelyn reading the wrong rule section. I send copies to the HOA attorney and to the county compliance office. Then I wait. Thursday morning, my contractor arrives and starts setting posts. Evelyn shows up within 20 minutes, but this time she does not have her clipboard. She has a county compliance officer with her, a man in a polo shirt with an official badge, and she is telling him I am operating without permits. The officer asks to see my survey and my HOA approval. I show him the survey and explain the HOA is withholding approval illegally. He looks at the survey, looks at the post, and tells Evelyn the setback is clearly compliant. She argues and he cuts her off. He says the HOA does not have authority over county setback rules, and if she keeps interfering, he will file a harassment complaint on my behalf. Evelyn does not leave. She stands there watching as the crew mixes concrete and sets the posts. One post is slightly crooked and the crew adjusts it, and Evelyn immediately shouts that they are doing it wrong and the concrete needs to cure before adjustments. The crew ignores her. She pulls out her phone and starts recording. I pull out mine and record her recording. The county officer tells her to leave or he will cite her for interference. She finally walks back to her car, but she does not drive away. She sits there with the portable speaker on the dashboard, playing her recorded announcement on a loop. The crew finishes setting 4 posts and the concrete is poured. Evelyn gets out of her car and walks over, demanding a change after the posts are set. The crew refuses. She threatens to call the police and the foreman tells her to go ahead. She does not call. She just stands there, arms crossed, glaring. If you are enjoying this story, please hit the like button and subscribe for more HOA nightmare tales. That afternoon, I get a call from the HOA management company. The woman on the phone sounds nervous. She says the board has received my records complaint and they are reviewing it. She asks if I would be willing to attend a hearing to discuss the matter. I ask if the lien is being withdrawn, and she says that is part of the discussion. I tell her I want the lien retracted in writing before I attend any hearing. She says she will get back to me. An hour later, I get an email from the HOA attorney. The tone is completely different. He says there has been a misunderstanding regarding the common property damage claim, and the HOA is withdrawing the lien and all associated fees. He does not mention the screenshot or the metadata report, but I know he saw them. The management company locks enforcement tools behind approvals, so Evelyn cannot issue threats on her own anymore. That is the outcome I was hoping for, but it is not the end. Friday morning, Evelyn shows up again, but this time she is not alone. She has two other board members with her, a man and a woman I have seen at neighborhood events. They are carrying a tape measure and a level, and they start measuring my fence posts. I walk outside and ask what they are doing. Evelyn says they are conducting an independent survey to verify compliance. I point out that the county already verified compliance, and the HOA attorney withdrew the lien. She ignores me and keeps measuring. The other board members look uncomfortable. One of them, the woman, quietly tells Evelyn that maybe they should wait for the formal hearing. Evelyn snaps at her and says they are doing this now. I take photos of everything. I photograph Evelyn measuring, the other board members, the tape measure itself. I notice one of the temporary marker stakes has been moved. It is the one at the far corner of the yard, near the drainage easement. It was 3 feet from the easement edge yesterday, and now it is only 2 feet. I walk over and take a close-up photo, making sure the disturbed dirt around the base is visible. Then I check my time-stamped photos from yesterday. The stake was definitely in a different spot. Evelyn moved it. I do not say anything. I just keep photographing. That is the twist. Evelyn secretly moved a temporary marker stake, and timestamp photos catch it. The formal hearing is scheduled for the following Tuesday at a courthouse hallway right before a hearing on a workday. The HOA does not have a meeting room big enough for the crowd that shows up. Word is spread through the neighborhood app, and at least 20 homeowners are there, most of them holding their own violation notices. The hallway is narrow and fluorescent lit, and everyone is standing because there are no chairs. Evelyn is at one end with the board members, clipboard in hand, badge reel glinting under the lights. I am at the other end with my friend and a binder full of evidence. The HOA attorney is there too, standing off to the side looking like he wants to be anywhere else. The board president calls the hearing to order and asks me to present my case. I start with the survey, explaining that I submitted the application, provided all required documents, and followed county setback rules. I show the timestamp photos proving the drainage easement was untouched. Then I show the metadata report proving the HOA photo was edited. Evelyn interrupts and says the report is not from a certified expert. My friend stands up and says he works in IT and he is happy to provide credentials. Evelyn tells him to sit down. The board president tells Evelyn to let me finish. I move on to the video of Evelyn reading the wrong rules section. I play it on my phone and hold it up so the board can see. The crowd laughs. Evelyn's face goes red and she says the video is out of context. I ask her to explain the context and she does not answer. Then I show the screenshot of Evelyn instructing the vendor to falsify the timestamp. The hallway goes silent. The board president asks to see the screenshot and I hand him my binder. He reads it, then passes it to the attorney. The attorney reads it and his expression hardens. He whispers something to the board president. Evelyn tries to defend herself. She says the screenshot is taken out of context and she never intended for anyone to actually change the data. The board president asks her directly if she instructed a vendor to alter a timestamp and she hesitates. That hesitation is enough. One of the other board members, the man who was measuring posts with her, says he was not aware of any of this and he wants a full investigation. Another board member agrees. Evelyn looks around the hallway and realizes no one is backing her. She says this is a witch hunt and storms out. The portable speaker is still on the floor near the wall, and someone kicks it as she leaves. The board president asks the attorney what the next steps are. The attorney says the HOA needs to issue a formal retraction and apology, and Evelyn needs to be removed from the safety committee pending an investigation. He also says the management company will implement new approval protocols so no single board member can issue liens or stop work orders without a vote. The board president looks tired. He agrees and asks me if I want to pursue any further action. I think about it. I could push for damages or attorney fees, but I do not have an attorney and I do not want to spend months in court. I just want to build my fence in peace. I tell the board I want the retraction in writing, all fees refunded, and a written guarantee that I can complete my fence without interference. The board president agrees. He also says the HOA will issue a third-party compliance report to verify my setback and clear me completely. That is the payback vector. The crowd claps. Evelyn is still visible through the courthouse window, standing by her car, phone pressed to her ear, probably calling someone to complain. I do not care. I pack up my binder and leave. Over the next 2 weeks, the HOA retracts the fence violation in writing, and I get a full refund of all fees. The third-party compliance report comes back clean, confirming my setback is correct and the posts are properly placed. My contractor finishes the fence in 3 days. It is a simple 6-foot privacy fence, nothing fancy, but it feels like a monument to persistence. The couple who watched from their porch the first day stopped by to congratulate me. They say they have been dealing with Evelyn for years, and they are glad someone finally stood up to her. The fallout for Evelyn is swift. At the next board meeting, she is outvoted so hard the room laughs when she tries to defend her enforcement record. The board votes to remove her from the safety committee and limit her role to non-enforcement tasks. She resigns from the board entirely a week later. The neighborhood app lights up with homeowners sharing their own stories of Evelyn's harassment, and several of them file formal complaints with the management company. The company launches an audit of all violations issued in the past year and overturns more than 30 of them. Evelyn deletes her social media and stops coming to neighborhood events. I see her one more time, at the mailbox cluster. She is picking up mail and I am checking mine. We do not speak. She glances at me, then at the portable speaker still sitting in her car, and I can see she is deciding whether to play the announcement. She does not. She just gets in her car and drives away. I stand there for a moment looking at the empty spot where her speaker used to blast recordings, and I think about the boomerang line. I will bury you in notices until you run out of printer ink. She buried herself instead. The HOA implements new rules requiring a 2-board member approval for any enforcement action and mandatory photographic evidence with verified timestamps. The management company hires a third-party auditor to review all future violations before they are issued. It is not a perfect system, but it is better. I get back to my normal life, working my data analyst job, tracking patterns and timelines, and occasionally checking the neighborhood app to see if anyone else is dealing with HOA nonsense. My fence stands solid and compliant, a quiet victory over a system designed to harass. I learned a lot from this experience. I learned that HOAs thrive on intimidation and counting on homeowners to fold under pressure. I learned that documentation is power, and that people like Evelyn get away with abuse because no one keeps records. I learned that the system protects itself until someone forces accountability. Most of all, I learned that patience and pattern recognition can beat brute force harassment every single time. Evelyn thought she could bury me in notices and fees, but she underestimated how much I was willing to track and how carefully I was building my case. She made the fatal mistake of putting everything in writing, and in the end, her own words destroyed her credibility. The neighborhood is quieter now. Enforcement actions are rare, and when they happen, they are legitimate. The board is more cautious, and the management company actually responds to emails. I still get the occasional automated reminder about trash cans or holiday decorations, but nothing like the harassment I faced during the fence project. My fence is still standing, weathering the Colorado drizzle and sun, and every time I look at it, I remember that moment in the courthouse hallway when the room went silent and Evelyn realized she had lost. Document everything, and I will see you soon.